Absolutely. Councillor Thomas?
I just had 2 points of call on those. As I said to you, I had received an email and had discussions with Coram District Land Keepers. They're on the ground, they're working with a lot of our rural communities and what they deliver, and that was their thoughts. But I'm certainly very happy to take on board what my fellow councillor Longmire has just mentioned, and certainly taking points 5 and 6 to our steering committee. I'm very happy to do that. If we want to remove them from the page, that is fine, but it is important to note that when it did come to that frost event on the 28th and 29th of August of last year, and Federation Council were submitting their natural disaster application, that it was all considered to do with Bureau of Meteorology data and where that was located. And I felt then that the flow and effects could that be if we could get some more strategic weather stations and met those Bureau standards in partnership with the Riverine Plains, that we could actually tick that box for future reference. Because when it comes to looking at drought and looking at weather, it is purely based on population and industry data with the reliance on agriculture and the economic impact of that. And it was also with interest that when we attended the ALGA proceedings in Canberra, that myself and the Mayor got to sit in on the National Drought Summit. And that was really interesting because it was actually a really gifted opportunity to sit in that room and hear some of the challenges right across our nation. And I'm happy to take them off the page if I want.
Thank you. And if I could just add on to that, which may fall into the second slap, is we do all acknowledge that weather station is very important as long as it's in line with BOM standards, Bureau standards. So that is a really big problem. Councillor Longmire, did you
like... I may just conclude the debate in regard to all those items. There's such a raft of things under the drought intent. We can bring the steering committee will work through some of those, and come up with ideas, and that's what it's for. I think that's the way to go, and that may or may not include what Councillor Thomas is referring to.
Councillor Whitehead.
Mr Mayor, I agree totally with what the motion and the amendments that Councillor Thomas put up, but Councillor Longmire is, I think, correct in saying I think we'd be undermining the drought committee if we were to itemise those points that would probably half set an agenda. But I totally agree that they're as important as some of the points that we perhaps haven't mentioned. Whether or not we leave that item 3 as it stands, or we add something in there along the lines of taking into account our previous workshop and council correspondence.
I could probably help with that for councillors' sake. We've got a draft list already done, but certainly add those couple of ones in there, and great idea to reactivate that committee. So yeah, we'll take those couple down. I'm sure Councillor Thomas will be informing us, and we'll add those to our list of projects as well, some of those programs. So it's a fairly wide list of available projects that earlier councils have gone through and been awarded funding for. So I think we're pretty safe with those types of ideas. Yeah.
Okay, well thank you. We've got a mover and seconder. If no further questions, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against? Carried.
7.3 is Stronger Country Community Funding Round 3. So this is just to provide formal advice on the latest offer under the state government's Stronger Country Communities program. So this was announced as well just before the state elections, that the government would be continuing on as part of their budget, and that it came through the budget obviously as well. So the council area is eligible for 1.55 million, of which 50% of that is dedicated to youth projects. And there's some timelines there in the report, which I'm sure councils have read. And so the recommendation is to note the report, send a letter of thanks to our local member, Justin Clancy, consider projects at an upcoming workshop and finalise applications by September council meeting. And in addition to a few of the changes, they've also taken out the choice modelling, which didn't appear to be a great hit, which the government ran in one or two of the earlier rounds. 50% to youth, as I've said, and also an important part is they'll take applications directly from communities, organisations, etc. So that'll change. So we'll have to give some thought as to how council do or don't sponsor projects that are on our land or Crown land we manage, as well as what the total threshold is. We've been through this before when we've got really big allocations like 5-6 million. so we certainly need to give some good thoughts to how we manage that. We'd envisage most community, especially clubs, etc., would let us know, so we'll have a handle, hopefully, on what is going in straight to government as opposed to coming through our processes, or at least our meetings. So, recommendation there.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, Councillor Wojcik.
So just one quick, Mr Mayor. With relation to those grants, we tend to hear a lot that community groups, and I think it's got better as they're getting more aware of the people who are writing grants for them, but we hear so often that people say, oh, we didn't have time to put the grant in, or we couldn't do it. Will we be putting this out to the public that this grant is out so we can get a feel of what's wanted out there in our extended community?
We've already been notified.
Yeah. Through the forms of the meeting, I mean, obviously, Councillor Longley, the sporting clubs have been notified externally by local government. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be pretty well spread now, hopefully.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried.
7.4, Information Report on the Local Government Act, new amendments. Report said some of the key changes that the new Minister particularly has been able to push through some changes, obviously getting the message that there's been a lot of reform proposals that have still been left sitting on the table, so at least now we've come forward and we've changed a few things, so one being around tenders going up to 250,000 before we have to go to a tender, an extra year as an option only to keep the rates freeze across the council area. The rate system, you get another year if you need to harmonise rates. Another lot of changes around regulatory changes and streamlining approvals, and some changes to the timing of when you're required to appoint the electoral commissioner if you intend to use the EC for the next local government election. So the recommendation is just a note.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, Councillor Longmire?
If I may, to Mr General Manager, in regard to effective, it says about since the merger, does that include the administration time, or only since we became what we are now?
It includes the whole time, yeah, since Federation was created. So
it does include the time under the administration?
Yeah.
Come back to under the protocol of what's been mentioned here, that no one would be able to pay more than the rates above what they had to do. Those farmers in the the Corowa section of the old Shire,
yeah,
that went up 14.9. How do they sit in that regard?
Yes, that's a very good question. So what the council, and I think the Upper Local Government have been I think they've come out pretty clear on this, they've been misrepresented a little bit around what the rules were around what you could do. So essentially in the old Corowa Shire you could still go up 20 and down 5, and you could do a whole heap of change in the rates in the dollar and mixing up the buckets as you were. Not that I've ever favoured that, and the council have never done that since I've been here. I think until you do a full review you just stick with your rate peg amount. But certainly what the intent of the rate freeze, and still is they wouldn't have been able to put 14 or extra, and it was mainly to protect those councils that had or didn't have special rate increases, whereas Corowa did. So whilst that was done, it didn't change the overall increase from the rate paid within the former Corowa by more than what the rate peg, in that case it was by the last year or two of the special rate increase. But they certainly did some big shifts within that, and I fully acknowledge that. The farmland got put up quite a lot, probably to try and soften or lower the increases across the other categories. So yeah, certainly didn't get affected by this at all.
Well, I accept that answer, if I may, through you, Mr Mayor, because at the time it did, and as somebody that was in the chair earlier, at that time it was announced through meetings and that at 7% across the board. However, under the administration it was curtailed into 14.9, 1 point something and less than 2%. So it did come within the framework of less than 7%.
Yeah.
And which was unfair, but I hear what you're saying, and I can understand it, but I don't accept it.
Yeah, and that's certainly the case. What's come out of Sydney councils are 1 year ahead, well not 1 year, about 6 months ahead I guess, of some of the councils out here in doing the studies on what the new model would look like across the former council areas. So the debate up there is around whether you want to do all that work and then try and seek a re-election and have the former ratepayers of those big metro councils, arguing about what they're paying in rates, or whether they wanted another year to get that settled. And we've already had, so in addition to the farmland disparities that occurred, we've got recent letters from Mulwala again about, we were told, and we've got to come back to them with some clarity, because it is a a reasonably confusing issue, I guess, because their letter indicates that they were promised some sort of a freeze or something or other, and so we're looking forward to engaging the firm to do the rate modelling across the whole area, and we'll be workshopping that fairly soon. We've got a recommendation soon coming up to appoint someone, and then within workshops, and particularly Joe's impressed on us the need to make sure we go out strong early in consultation with our community, because that's where it's going to be hitting in the rate notices. But yeah, some really good work come ahead on making sure we get a good understanding of it all.
If I may, it's quite an interesting new word, harmonise. It used to be review.
Yeah.
And that's been on with some residents in Mulwala for a long time, wanting a review.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice word, harmonise.
It is very nice.
Peaceful word.
Any further comments on that one? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
So just a report here for the process of disclosing pecuniary interest disclosure return, so annual requirement. So 7.5 is a recommendation to receive and note the report concerning the disclosure of returns by the new designated persons, being two of our directors, Susan Appleyard and Joe Shannon.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longley. Questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried.
Seven 7.6 is a report on Local Government New South Wales, so LG in New South Wales annual conference coming up 14th to 16th of October, held up in Sydney this year. So we don't have to, but we should, work towards some motions to submit for consideration for conference. And I've just outlined a few of the key areas I think where Council would be interested in, which would be a statewide, mostly, probably all those issues would affect the statewide in some shape or form, and it is a fair process to get through the board to make sure that we are of that nature and we're not already repeating existing policy platforms of LG. So it's just there for consideration, and certainly we can finalise those by the 19th of August. So recommendations to note the report, finalise the motions, but if there's any discussion after this is moved, happy to take questions or comments.
Okay, moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it.
Sorry, just I appreciate we're going to talk about those potential motions. I'm just wondering, it's probably been going on for a while about the regional rural and those, and it seems to get knocked back on all occasions. I believe LG New South Wales are continually pushing those structures, and it's based on the 20,000. I think maybe we need to be a little bit clearer or a bit more hard on the size or demographic size that we've now taken on, not the population. Yeah, not the population.
Yeah, so what we're told is, based on our last submission, that the review of the categories themselves is underway again this year coming. So they were just looking to see last year whether or not you wanted to jump one or the other, and we through the whole lot of them, just a whole lot of issues, but they're saying, we didn't make the next category, but they're also saying they'll review all those categories. But I think, we just need to keep the foot down on what councils are expected to be able to across these days.
Any further comments on that one, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
That's the end of the reports.
Okay, thank you, Mr. General Manager, and I'll now move to the Director of Corporate and Community Services. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This first report provides a reconciliation of council's cash balances as at the 30th of June 2019. As detailed in the report, council has cash holdings of just under $39 million, and 29 of this is restricted, as external restrictions on it. So this report is recommended to you for motion.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
The next report is the schedule of council's investments as at the 30th of June 2019, currently totalling just below $34 million. This is recommended to you for motion.
Okay, moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.3 relates to some advice we've received from the Aboriginal Land Claims Investigation Unit. So they have received a number of claims in relation to parcels of land that are in the Federation Council area, 35 parcels in total. Council has an opportunity to provide advice to that unit if it has an interest in that land, and if it's being lawfully used or occupied, or if there is a need or it's likely to be needed for an essential public purpose. Council officers have reviewed those 35 parcels and identified that 9 of them are being used for a public purpose, particularly where they're on an existing road reserve or a recreation reserve. So those 9 have been identified in the schedule that's attached to your papers. This is now being recommended to you that we advise the Aboriginal Land Claims Unit of the interest in those 9 parcels so that they can continue with their processing of those land claims.
Just a question on that, please, in relation to those land claims. If there is a couple or one other councils have identified, would there be opportunity to further liaise with you?
Ms. Mead, that would be much appreciated. So council officers have been through it, but there may be things, items in there that we have actually missed. So I would welcome, if there's a parcels of land there that you have identified have an additional community purpose that we haven't identified, I would prefer that you let us know now.
Thank you. Councillor Longmire?
It's a good question you asked, Mr Mayor, in regard to Ms Shannon, and I believe that we've had a look at it, but there could be one slip through to the keeper. So have we got some sort of a period of time where if we do come back to that and find something, Ms Shannon, that we're able to, or once we've adopted it, it's on its way?
Essentially, once we've adopted this,
Yeah.
it does need to be submitted to that unit, yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
I can follow up to see if there's any further opportunity if we do identify something.
Yeah.
But as I understand it, this is the stage of the process where council has the opportunity to provide this advice.
There are quite a number of parcels of land, in fact a lot, and some of them are pretty large. And as the general public, other than looking at the agenda, being able to understand where some of these parcels are, because I'm sensing that somebody might, in community talkfest, they say, oh, what about that parcel around wherever, you know, that's gone through and it's been adopted. So that's probably where I'm coming from in regard to it will, with the publicity and that after the meeting, get some more community input, I guess. I'm not saying which way it will go, but it could happen down the track. That's the reason I asked the question.
Mr Mayor?
Councillor Longmire?
Ask a question too. I'm not sure where they all are. There are numerous lots for this, but one thing that concerns me is fire control. Who's going, if these claims are successful, who's going to manage the land and who's going to control the fire risk, for example, in some of these places? I see that as a problem at the moment. Somebody else is obviously doing it, but once change hands, are they going to maintain it?
Councillor Lindley, I'll have to take that as a question on notice to understand exactly how that process works with respect to the interest in the land. So at this point in time, it is an interest that has been raised from those land claims. If there is an existing owner of the land, then they will be notified through those channels. But with respect to fire hazards and things like that, I will take that on notice.
Just a question, Joe. In relation to the fact that some councils might have identified a parcel of land, with this recommendation in place, therefore it will then go on to the land council, so it's sort of confirmed and the horse is bolted, so to speak. Will this recommendation, is it needed, is there a timeline or a time frame that we need to reply?
There are time frames that we need to reply.
Yeah, okay. So it's a bit difficult if there is, do councils have any that I wish to identify now, or is there?
Just a quick question, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Meagle?
Have we got another month to defer this to the next meeting, or is that outside the time frame?
That will be outside the time frame.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Well, we could include, what about including in the recommendation with some new additions or adjustments?
Mr
With
Mayor,
further correspondence.
With further correspondence, yeah.
is it possible that we declare an interest in all of them?
Mike could take that one. I've spoken to Ian Rich, our property officer, on that. They have done a lot of more stringent assessment of whether we do have an interest or not in these, and I think it goes right back to, I suppose, the number of land claims that are across the state, and they're trying to progress forward more efficiently with all those. And yeah, the blanket sort of approach, just based on what Ian's been having the conversation with that lands unit, really detailed responses are coming back, like, you know, is it still needed and could you just give it away without an easement? So they're really getting into the detail on all those. But certainly I can see the vast number of these properties and the need to make sure we can really ensure that if there is some interest in there that occurs. So we probably do need to defer and seek an extension. I don't know that I wouldn't like to think they just overrule the council, and if we've genuinely made a fair effort to do a fairly good assessment and then we're still clarifying a few others, see how that goes. Yeah, we can report back on it.
Could I also suggest, Mr General Manager, we do a tour of the areas and we can make an informed assessment?
Well, I might get, I'll get a move for this recommendation.
Or defer, you're going to defer the whole report.
Or a move to defer. Councillor Meagle?
Move that we defer this to the August meeting.
Seconded by Councillor Longmire. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Number 9, Director of Development and Environmental Services report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Susan.
Item 9.1, which is the standard report of political approvals for the month of June. And if there's any questions to be taken.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I could through you, just to the Director, it's not relating directly to that report that on the development application, probably a question without notice, was had some people query the visual board at the Coral High School. They've now got a variable message board on display at their front fence. It's quite a distraction when you're driving up Redlands Road. Someone asked me whether that was applicable, and I thought it was okay, but I said I'd take it from that.
I do know the background on that one.
Yep.
It was approved by RMS and Council, and there are very strict guidelines on it, and it does comply.
Yep. Thank you for that, and I did say that it would have been put up if it wasn't allowed.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. So, we have a mover. Did I get a mover?
Meagle, Whitechurch.
Councillor Meagle and Whitechurch. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Councillors, item 9.2 is just a development application which has been approved under delegation, and again,
So
happy to take
moved.
any questions.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Councillors, item 9.3 is the Draft Federation Council Community Participation Plan. This is a new requirement for all councils in New South Wales. It defines the input that the community, the minimum inputs that we have to have for the community into any land use planning decision. It's a very important document. I've asked council to consider it thoroughly and
Thank-
make comments.
Thank you. Can I have a mover for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question to the Director. Does it really just put down in words what we're already doing, or is there a substantial change? I couldn't see much difference to what we're already doing.
No, there's not a huge change, but this makes it a statutory requirement to advertise whatever we put into that document.
Thank you.
Anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, Susan. And now move to the Director of Engineering Services, Lee Ashford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There's only one item on the engineering report this month, and that relates to addition of another contractor to a panel contract for planning and environmental consultancy panel.
Excellent. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Thank you, Lee.
Mr Mayor.
Now, we'll move to item number 11, notice of motions, questions without notice. Councillor Longmire.
Mr Mayor, if I may, that's the shortest engineering report I've ever seen. I know we've got a new representative. I mean, we cling on as rural representatives, you know, how the graders going out there at the back of, you know, wherever. I think, and that's, you know, I've often said that roads and potholes are what we understand, planning's a bit harder. So I just sense that, I don't know, I'm not sure how to address this one, but I'd like to see more report come back in. And no connection against you, Mr Orwood, none about that, but I think we need to have something that comes through with a bit more, you know, overall understanding of where our graders are and some of our projects are, because we've got so much happening out there.
We might ask that be passed on to Mr Carmichael's report.
Yeah, when he comes back.
In his absence, we'll have a double whammy for us. Can make up.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire.
Traffic committee.
12 reports from committees. We've got a report there from a really good report from the Traffic Committee and a recommendation that the minutes of Traffic Local Committee held on 28th of May be noted. Can I have a mover, please? Move to note. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, just about the committee, like when we first come on council, I mentioned about the 50k zone in Mulwala, and I was told that it was going to all be changed and, you know, reassessed and everything, but there's nothing mentioned in that whole committee again. Like, I just don't know what is going on with it, to be honest, because, our former director said it was being passed and everything, and there's nothing happened. There's nothing happened. Like, you've got to drive halfway the corridor to get back into the 50k zone, 80k zone in Mulwala. It's a joke, really. Like, we're out 80k past the tip, there's not even a house out there. You know, and you come to corridor and it's 100k past, I don't know, 40 homes before you get into the 60k zone. So, like, I just don't realise why that hasn't been brought up, it hasn't been changed. Like, I'd just like to put a note there saying that, can it please be, you know, I was told that it was going to be changed. Like, I've had so many people complain that 50k's, you know, out to nearly the Rennie turn-off, really, and it used to be 80k's to my turn-off to my house, and you know, it's nearly a 50k zone. So, it just, like, I can't see why it goes from 100k's back to 50, bang. Like, there's no buffer zone. There's just, it's and old mate there, he sits there and makes a fortune. You know, I'd just like to, I don't know if you can add something there to say that, can we see what's going on with that? Because it's been mentioned so many times now and nothing seems to be happening about it.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy.
Councillor Kennedy, we can make sure that's on the agenda for the next Traffic Committee meeting to discuss that.
Thanks, Lee. Yep. Would you like to add to that recommendation, Councillor Kennedy?
I just want to know that the speed limits in Mulwala, like the zones are way out of town and just need to be reassessed. I think that's the...
Is that okay? We've got a mover. Who was the mover? I'm sorry. The mover was Councillor Law and the seconder was Councillor Kennedy. Whitechurch. Is it okay to add a note onto that recommendation?
And you're thinking just, Councillor Kennedy, the state roads, so coming in and going out,
pretty much,
rather than just so we can get clarity on the extra point that the
50
kilometre zones.
The entry zones to Mulwala, like they're way out of town and they're 50k zones, and they're just
just a new point. I think
nearly all the way out to Councillor Thomas's farm, 50k's.
That council said we'd have to get Transport for New South Wales, Lee being a state road.
All speed limits are, council can make whatever comments they like, but RMS are the approving authority and they also the investigation authority.
Review into the 50-kilometre zones at the entrances to Mulwala. Yeah, is that okay?
Yep.
Comfortable with that?
Even 50 and 80k zones, because they go way out too. Like.
Into the 50 and 80. Yeah.
I was out past Mulwala Tip heading to Baruga, like, it's past the industrial estate, there's still 80k's, there's not even a house out there.
Okay, let's
It's
go.
a big centre pivot that grows a heap of fat lambs, that's all.
Councillor Watchers, do you want to make one?
Mr Mayor, if I could, just in relation to the alteration or additions to the motion, I'll just step back to when this was brought up. We've already done this review and it's already been passed. My question to the Director at the time, to Mr Peter Gore, was where was this at? We've been 7 months since that application was put in 2 years ago, and I believe it would have been about the August-September meeting last year, and the then Director had told me that notification had come through only a couple of weeks ago, and for that was approved. So I think you'll find on record that that has been done and approved. We've been down that path of exactly that to get to there. And then, whilst I'm on my feet, I brought up at the Urana council meeting when we were out at Urana about this traffic committee. It has, whilst we have to have it, and it's a requirement under the Act, I did say that when we were out at Urana, it's really a worthless committee. It's going nowhere. We've got the same things, and I said it last time, the Door Street intersection is coming up to its birthday. I'll be ringing a patty cake with Door Street written on it next month. If that line isn't moved, it's been a year, and the same thing appears on the agenda. We identified that Urana, nothing's happening with the committee, it's going nowhere. We've got to do something about it.
We did speak to him. We did go and speak to our local member in relation to exactly what you've just said, to try and give it some grant or a bit of power. Councillor Thomas.
I just wondering, this is a question without notice to yourself, Mr Ashford. Do the RMS have a methodology when it comes to delivering their speed limits? Is that based on population or the dynamics on what's on the side of the road? Because there seems to be fairly inconsistent delivery with our three river towns, you know, Howlong, Cora and Wawela. And I would think that, especially in the lead up to those towns, and I'm thinking about the consistency and do they have a methodology with their speed zone delivery?
Thanks, Councillor Thomas. All I can comment is that RMS or Transport New South Wales would have a methodology, and it's based on technical considerations such as sight distance, amount of traffic on the road, amount of intersections on the road, community comment. There is a whole heap of issues that they would look at. The last one that I was involved in took them about 12 months to actually do that assessment.
Okay, Councillor Longley.
Yep. Mr Ashford, the Booper crossing at Howlong, the former director said that we'd had verbal approval for that and was waiting on written approval. I noted that the budget for it was 80,000, 40,000 is already in this year's budget, but this is saying it's not sure whether it's been approved by them at all, this report.
Thanks, Councillor Longley. It is approved by RMS, but the funding has not been approved or guaranteed by them yet. In discussions with RMS, they have suggested that yes, it will be funded this year, but they haven't actually cut that far up to say that we're actually got the money for us. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, there's the addition there. Moved and seconded, happy?
Yeah.
No further questions, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay. Councillors, I'm just wondering where were we? I've lost my place. Would you like to break for morning tea? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Oh, you're going to go